These are the final hours. What I'm referring to is, well, we talked about the State Department's report about the minimal significant impact of the Keystone XL pipeline. And I feel like this will become a defining moment, not only with respect to our energy, the way we think about energy, our relationship to oil, and our relationship to the environment. We're going to get into that in just a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the fire you can't put out. With you as usual, my name is Melvin, and this is probably, unless there's any more significant news that comes out with respect to this pipeline, this is probably the last time I'm going to cover it to this kind of degree on this program. But I want to say this. TransCanada is building the pipeline. We all know that. TransCanada has a website, KeystoneXL.com, and they're not shy about who they are. It says right on the front of the website, they want it built because they care about America. Right. Canadian company really, really cares about America. Let's put that aside for now. On their website, they say it will create 9,000 jobs. Such is maybe the case. That might be true. But they're not going to be permanent. There will be a ton of jobs that are created right away. And it might be 9,000. And it will be for the construction of the pipeline. And then there will only be maintaining the pipeline afterwards, or responding to spills. And by the way, there will be spills. What's going to be going through the pipeline is probably the dirtiest oil on the planet. It's called tar sands oil. And there's going to be a special lining inside of the pipe that is supposed to guard against the really, really caustic, gritty oil that's going to be going through the pipeline. Because it is so rough that it could wear away the pipe, the inside of the pipe, and lead to a lot of spillings. And as we covered on the show last week, 4 out of 5 spills from, like with the rail cars or with pipelines, it's almost never discovered by the company itself. It's usually discovered by some poor citizen after it wears a hole in the pipeline and gets on their land, and it ruins their home, or it ruins their yard, or it ruins their entire city. So what will probably happen if it gets built? The initial 9,000 jobs, fine, but then nothing. It's anticipated maybe a couple dozen jobs to maintain it. Say, well, Keystone, or TransCanada, is going through so much trouble trying to get this thing built. What's the big deal? Why is it so important to Canada that this gets built in America? Look, rather than going through all the trouble with our president and with our State Department and with our very vocal and mobile environmentalists, why not just run it through Canada? Couple of things. First and foremost, 3/4 of the Canadian people don't want it running through Canada. They don't, because of the environmental impact, because of the possible leaks. And they've got natives that have land that it would have to go through, and the natives are 100% against it. Okay, so they don't want it running through their land, but we, the Americans, we want it to go ahead and run through our land. Now, why not just refine this oil? Why not just process it right there in Canada. That's where the oil is, because what's going to happen is it's going to be refined there. It's going to be sent through the United States in this pipeline. It's going to be refined in Texas, and then it's going to be sent around the world. So why not just refine it in Canada? Do they not have refining capabilities in Canada? Oh, they do. They most certainly do. But they don't want to refine it there. And the reason they don't is because it creates so much toxic waste. Simply refining this incredibly dirty oil. This isn't sweet Louisiana crude. Simply refining it is anything but simple. And it creates a lot of waste. And they don't want it there. They don't want it in Canada. So they say they want to run this pipeline through America. If there's a spill, let America deal with it. Send it down to Texas, let it get refined there, because Texas doesn't care about how much waste they put into their environment, and then send that stuff around the world. Other countries will burn it and put it up into the atmosphere. I hate to think that Canada doesn't think that once it's burned and put into the atmosphere that it's not going to affect their air. Because, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, we all share the same planet. It most certainly is going to affect their air eventually. So they don't want the spills to potentially happen in their land. Their people don't want it. They don't want the waste that's going to come from building this thing or from refining that incredibly nasty oil. But Americans want it. They put out a statement recently, TransCanada did, that said that the time is running out for building this thing. And they're correct. There's more than a few companies right now that have started moving oil by rail car, which is probably why you're seeing so many rail car incidents. They said, you know what, we can't wait for the pipeline. And they've just started moving it by rail. And that's that. And eventually this thing might not get built. So it's up to us now. It's up to our president. And it's up to America. What are we going to do? Here at the Fire You Can't Put Out, the people who work on this show are against it. Dead set against it. And we believe that if we do not build this thing, it will change America. If we build it, same as it ever was, maybe a little dirtier. But if we don't build it, it will change things here in America. Projects like this will stop being pushed upon us. So, I am going to give you the number today. And as I said last week, it's time to call the White House. It's time to let them know what we think. The White House comment line is 202-456-1111. You don't talk to the president directly, obviously. You're not a world leader, neither am I. But you can certainly call, and they do take down your messages, and they do hand those off to the president. Switchboard number is also 202-456-1414. You can talk to any of your members of Congress. And if you want to write the letter, they prefer that you send an email. They say it's the fastest. You can find out how to do that over at whitehouse.gov. And if you want to send a handwritten letter to the president, make sure you make it legible. The White House address is 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C., 20500. The comment line number again, 202-456-1111. Yeah, I'm going to call, and I would urge everyone else to call and say we don't need this thing. We're not going to get any of the benefits of this thing, and all we're going to get are the headaches. We don't need the Keystone XL pipeline. I understand there's going to be there's going to be political fallout with respect to the Democrats about this because most people don't understand anything about the Keystone XL pipeline. But really, we're signing our own death warrant if we build this thing. I'm going to leave you with one more thing about this, and then we're going to go ahead and move on. I, myself, am not a religious man, but I'm quite familiar with the Bible. And there's more than a few conservatives that are making the case for the Keystone XL pipeline because they think, well, the argument is we're human, and who are we to think that we can actually have an impact on the environment? Revelations 11:18. The nations were angry, and your wrath has come, and the time of the dead, that they should be judged, and that you should reward your servants and the prophets and the saints, and for those who fear your name, small and great, and should destroy those who destroy the earth. For my religious folks out there, it says it right there in Revelations. Destroy those who destroy the earth. If you're really clinging to the Bible, there, teabaggers, conservatives, economic freedom, blah, 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 it's right there in your book. The same book you used to justify homophobia, hate and fear and murder. The same book that you used to justify slavery for so many years. It's right there in your book. So West Virginia, their water is still incredibly dirty this week, unfortunately. After the fallout from the Freedom Industries, you remember we talked about this? Freedom Industries had a tank that was leaking a chemical that's used to treat coal, and of course that left 300,000 people without water service. And now we get this. More than 100,000 gallons of coal slurry poured into an eastern Kanawha County stream this past Tuesday, in what officials were calling a significant spill from, follow me here, Patriot Coal Processing Facility. Yeah, that's actually the name. Patriot Coal. So from Freedom Industries to Patriot Coal, this comes to us from Steve Bannon over at MSNBC. Locals were initially told that a slurry line ruptured between a preparation plant and a refuse impound facility at Patriot Coal. I just love how they come up with these names, these screaming nationalistic right-wing names. The company that manages the water treatment plant released a statement saying that the latest leak would not affect public water supply. Really? In the meantime, federal lawmakers from West Virginia organized a field hearing on the safety of drinking the water in the wake of last month's leak. One of the central questions was quite straightforward. Is the water safe for residents to drink? Jeff McIntyre, president of West Virginia American Water, dodged, of course. Water companies do not set safety standards, McIntyre said. They just follow them, and West Virginia American is in compliance with all those standards. There's enough regulation already, so they say. Ask the same question Dr. Letitia Tierney, commissioner of the State Bureau for Public Health, weaved. Quote, That's in a way a difficult thing to say because everybody has a different definition of safe. Yeah, you heard that correctly. She says, look, everyone's got a different definition of safe. And of course, the governor has said, hey, it's up to you. Freedom, America. It's up to you if you want to drink the water. We get a say in these things. That's what the government is. We get a say in what happens with our environment, with our children, with our schools, and all the rest. And so often the argument is made that we shouldn't have any government whatsoever because these big, faceless companies that are only focused on profit will do the right thing because they want to make money. So they'll do the right thing. They don't need regulations. They don't need they'll simply do the right thing. One environmental hazard after another. This is more than a month after that tank leaked into the ground. And the people there still can't drink the water. And by the way, they're being billed for it. They were told to run their faucets and that the water was going to be safe to drink after they ran their faucets for 24 hours. So they all did. They just ran their faucets, cleaned their faucets out for 24 hours, and then they were billed for the water that they couldn't drink, that they were told to run through. Hey, freedom, America. All right, let's get into the minimum wage. On Wednesday, President Obama signed an executive order raising the minimum wage for federal contractors up to $10.10 an hour. This is part of the phone and pen strategies, one of the things the president's doing because he can't get Congress to move on anything. The president said in the East Room at the signing, quote, now it's been over 2 weeks since I delivered my State of the Union address, and I said this year would be a year of action, and I meant it. Over the past 14 days, I've ordered across-the-board reform of our job training programs to train folks with the skills that employers need and then match them up with good jobs that are ready to be filled right now. So while Congress decides what it's going to do, and I hope this year and I'm going to work with this year and urge that they actually pass a law. Today I'm going to do what I can do to help raise American workers' wages. The executive order increasing the minimum wage for federal contractors to $10.10 will only impact around 300,000 people, but it's a significant move by the president, and it's the president trying to lead by example. Okay? There's a few people that are unhappy, not many. According to a poll which was conducted by the public opinion research firm Hart Research Associates, found that 80% of respondents agreed that the minimum wage should be raised to $10.10 an hour and increased periodically to account for rising costs. That, of course, would be indexing it to inflation. Support for the measure among registered Democrats was especially high, with 92% in favor of the proposal. This comes to us from David Winograd over at HuffPo, and this was from back in August. So long before the debate about the minimum wage has heated up recently. So this was taken long before the State of the Union and you know, all the hot conversation that's going on about it right now. About 3/4 of the respondents said that raising the minimum wage should be a top congressional priority. A recent study from Restaurant Opportunity Centers United found that raising the minimum wage would have significant economic benefits. The report estimates that 58% of Americans living below the poverty line would no longer struggle with hunger if the minimum wage were raised to, this seems to be the golden number right now, $10.10 an hour. But with 80% of the American people being for it, who's against it? Well, not many. And I want to bring you one of them today. You may have already seen the clip. It just went absolutely viral on the internet of Peter Schiff, who was talking with Daily Show correspondent Samantha Bee. And Peter Schiff, of course, is a libertarian. When she was interviewing him, he, of course, defended his position. And then Samantha Bee, and what's unfortunate is this is where our news comes from now. These comedy shows, these comedic, these fake news shows. This is where our actual news is coming from, and then you flip to the 24-hour news networks, and it's absolutely not coming from there. So, quote, Schiff, if we eliminate the minimum wage law, he wants it gone, no minimum wage at all. Okay, back to the article. Then individuals will be free to accept jobs at whatever pay that they are able to get. Samantha B. Give me a picture of a person whose work would be worth $2 an hour. Schiff, not missing a beat. Somebody who might be, maybe somebody who is, what's the politically correct word for, mentally retarded? I'm not going to say we're all created equal. You're worth what you're worth. Yep, he actually said it. And you can find the clip online. He actually said, yeah, we can go ahead and pay the mentally retarded. And he tried to clean it up. He goes, how do you say, he tried to clean it up a little bit, but you can't. It's pretty poisonous language. So Robert Reich, who recently released a documentary called Inequality for All, highlighting the problems that we have with inequality. This was, of course, the labor secretary under President Clinton, and he has become a leader in ending inequality. Okay, and he recently wrote for Alternate, quoting from his article, under a headline, Obama moves to the right in partisan war words, the New York Times' Jackie Calms notes Democratic operatives have been hitting back hard against the president or any Democratic politician talking about income inequality, preferring that Democrats talk about equality of opportunity instead. Of course, this is all just wordsmithing. The president and other Democrats, and even Republicans for that matter, should focus on the facts, not the polls, and not try to dress up what's been happening with more soothing words or phrases. Quoting from his article, in fact, America's savage inequality is the main reason equal opportunity is fading and poverty is growing. Since the recovery began, we've said this before, and we'll say it again. 95% of the gains have gone to the top 1%, and the median incomes have dropped. This is a continuation of the trend that we have seen for decades, and as a result, the middle class no longer has enough purchasing power to keep the economy growing and creating sufficient jobs. All these companies that depend on consumers, eventually there's not going to be any consumers because there's not enough money. And then these companies say, well, we'll just hire some more workers at really low wages. Well, then the The shrinking middle class isn't even generating enough tax revenue for adequate education, training, safety nets, and family services. And when they're barely holding on, they can't afford to and don't want to pay more. Meanwhile, America's rich are accumulating not just more of the country's total income and wealth, but also the political power that accompanies money. And they're using that power to reduce their own taxes and get corporate welfare, subsidies, bailouts, and tax cuts for their businesses. We'll say, well, what would you do, Melvin? You're going to raise people's wages? That's going to raise prices. Crap. What are you going to do? Are you going to raise taxes? Well, yeah, but not on you and I. We are paying you and I, and I'm assuming that you're a working person listening to the show. I can't imagine there's anybody wealthy within the sound of my sweet, sweet voice right now. We pay a disproportionate amount of the taxes, but it's not enough. These businesses that get subsidies and tax breaks and all the rest, and by the way, use our court system a disproportionate amount to enforce their contracts. And then they argued that they shouldn't have to pay taxes or be regulated. They don't mind getting the breaks. They don't mind using our court system. They don't mind driving on our roads and bridges and all the rest and polluting our air, but they don't want to pay for it. That's welfare. So would I raise taxes? Hell yeah, I'd raise taxes. Let's start with this. Ending the Bush tax cuts. That would be a fine start. But Melvin, there's no proof that raising taxes helps. Actually, there is. I bring you this from Stephen Rosenfeld over at Alternet. Congressional Republicans compromised with the White House, you may remember, in December 2012 and passed a bill raising income tax rates for the top bracket from 35% to 39.6% starting in 2013. No, not a lot, but it's something. The rate on long-term capital gains was raised from 15 to 20% for incomes in the highest income bracket, which is 39.6%. Also, a 3.8% surge was added to unearned income investments, and an additional 0.09%, so less than a percent, was imposed for individuals making more than $200,000 and couples earning more than $250,000. Okay? In recent weeks, national news organizations have reported that governors and legislators in blue and red states are jockeying over how to spend better than expected revenues. That's right. In ultra-red Kansas and deep blue New York, governors on opposite ends of the spectrums want to expand early childhood education. In a Democratic majority in California, Governor Jerry Brown is looking at putting extra cash into a rainy day fund, while legislators want school and safety nets restored. In other states, look, they're actually fighting about how to say, oh my goodness, we have money. The wealthy are paying more of their tax. We have money. I think the tax rates on these guys should be even higher. And it's not as though it's you're going to kill jobs if these guys aren't creating jobs. Hedge fund managers, unearned income. These people don't even work. They just get dividend checks. They make their money off of their investments. They're not creating jobs. Unearned income. Raise their taxes. The recovery has led to calls for more spending on job training, public health, cheaper higher education, roads, and tax cuts. And obviously this came from, like I said, at the end of 2012, ending part of the Bush-era tax cuts, which just punched a gigantic hole in our budget and really should have never happened. I want to do an honorable mention here real quick. Elizabeth Warren, the Democratic senator from Massachusetts, has become a hero very, very quickly in Melvin's book. Hi, that's me. And she recently broke ranks with President Obama this week, and I absolutely love it. The biggest thing I like about the president is that he is speaking out about income inequality right now. He is speaking out for marriage equality. He's speaking out for gay rights. He's speaking out for the right to vote. These are great things. What are some bad things? Well, I think he gives too much to the Republicans. I don't like the drone program. I just finished reading Rachel Maddow's book, Drift, and the great thing about progressives, generally, not all, but generally, certainly the ones I like reading from, is they don't pull punches on anybody. Anybody is screwing up and they call out everybody, and I love that. I always hated on conservative talk radio tuning in and hearing those guys just be outright apologists for the Bush administration and for congressional Republicans. Just they can never do any wrong, and that's just not possible. Especially considering what the Iraq War was wrong. I'm not going to go into all this, obviously, but she laid out the case, Rachel did in her book, why all of our last, say, 5 presidents, let's say Bush, Clinton, Reagan, and our current president, why and how each of them has been leading, has just exploded the amount of money that we spend on the military. And how even this president, who got a Nobel Peace Prize, is waging a war with drones right now and is killing people, innocent people. They're not the intended target, but they are dying as a result of our drone program. Sorry, there I go on another tangent. My love for Rachel. Back to Senator Warren. Now, the White House has been really talking about how diverse the judges that the White House has been picking is. And it is. It's been pretty diverse. But Senator Warren took issue with it. And with good reasoning. This comes to us from Jennifer Bendery over at HuffPo. Just this week, last week, the White House launched a webpage breaking down all the female, black, Hispanic, and gay nominees that the president has put forward. But when it comes to professional diversity of his judicial picks, Obama doesn't have much to brag about, said Senator Elizabeth Warren on Thursday. So that was this past Thursday, February 6th. Speaking at an event hosted by Alliance for Justice, Warren said the federal bench is currently dominated by judges who currently work for large firms representing corporate interests. She's lamented that little has changed under Obama. We face a federal bench that has a striking lack of diversity, Warren said. President Obama has supported some notable exceptions, but the president's nominees have thus been largely in line with the prior statistics, talking about corporatism. So she ran through several stats on Obama's judicial nominees as outlined in a new AFJ report called Broadening the Bench. 71% of his nominees have practiced primarily for corporate business clients, which means they are among Obama's judicial picks over the last 5 years. Corporate attorneys outnumber all other kinds of attorneys by 3-1. The report also found that 3.6% of the president's nominees have a background in public interest organizations, just 3.6%. So power is becoming more and more concentrated on one side, she said. Professional diversity is one way to insulate the courts from corporate capture. So she's making the case, and with some justice, that the president is picking another thing with the presidency, and I talk about this all the time. What the president actually does, so people scream about the jobs and this and that. Well, the president, he spends too much money. He can't legally spend money. He hasn't created enough jobs. He doesn't create them. He can put forth a plan, but the Congress has to pass the bill. Congress has to spend the money. Okay. So one of the things that the president actually does is pick judges. That's what I like about Obama. I like who he's picked for the Supreme Court. They've been great. And I couldn't imagine having like a 7-9 split in the court right now, conservative. That would just be atrocious because it's only 5-4 right now. 5-4, just one over. And it took them less than a year to put every one of our elections up for sale to the highest bidder. And that's what you get with a conservative court. But with the other judges, the other federal judgeships that Obama also gets to pick around the nation, which, by the way, the Senate just took away the Republicans' right to filibuster judicial nominees. And then Obama's putting forth these corporate nominees. So, honorable mention. Good on you, Elizabeth Warren, for saying something. Yeah, don't pick corporatist judges. Jeez. Elections up for sale. Those are the kind of things that you're going to get. So kudos to Senator Warren. The true state of our union. And here's why we need to move away from the idea that people shouldn't be paid enough. And, to hell with kids and hungry people without homes, and people without clothes, and give everything to corporations and all the rest, and America will just be better and everybody will just be lifted up. A big kudos to Tim Dickinson over at Rolling Stone, who ran these numbers. New income generated since 2009 has gone to the top 1%. We've said this, 95%. Financial wealth controlled by the bottom 60% of all Americans is just 2.3%. Record combined wealth of the top 400 richest Americans, $2 trillion. Percentage of Hispanic and African American children living in poverty, respectively, 33.8% and 36.7%. Amount that food stamps will be cut in 2014 thanks to the Republicans getting what they wanted in the Farm Bill, $5 billion. What the minimum wage would be if it had kept pace with gains in worker productivity since 1968. That would be $21.72. Number of U.S. workers laboring at or below minimum wage, 3.6 million. That is the near equivalent of the population of Los Angeles. Stealth taxpayer subsidy to the fast food industry paid out as safety net benefits to the workers earning poverty wages. This is how much it costs you and I for the food industry, the restaurant industry, to pay their workers substandard wages, $7 billion. Carbon dioxide levels measured in parts per million, 397. The maximum concentration of the greenhouse gas that scientists deem sustainable is 350, and we're at 397. Years since the turn of the century that have ranked among the warmest on record. All 13 of the 13 years, turn of the century, all the last 13, 2001 to 2013, all 13 of those years were among the 15 hottest years on record. Rank of 2013 on that list of the warmest years, number 4. U.S. defense spending in 2012, $682 billion. Now, wait a minute. Could we not take $5 billion out of that so that people can have food stamps? Of course not. War. Dollar amount by which that surpassed our nearest plausible military rival. That's China. That's $516 billion. Number of Americans disenfranchised from voting because of felony convictions, 5.9 million. Share of those disenfranchised voters who are African American, 37%. Number of Americans arrested annually for marijuana possession, 658,000. And that doesn't make any sense. Why? Why are we arresting people for pot? You know how much it costs us? There's ways to do things. There's a better way to do this. Total incarcerated U.S. population, 2.3 million. Total population of those on probation or parole, 4.8 million. States that could be entirely filled by all of the Americans under correctional supervision right now, the entire state of Nevada and Kentucky. That's how many people are under incarceration right now. The official unemployment rate is 6.7%. But the true rate, the alternate rate, including Americans who have given up looking for work or have only been able to secure part-time employment, is 13.1%. Number of jobs America is still down from the 2008 employment peak is 1.69 million. Number of Americans who were cut off from long-term unemployment benefits at the turn of the year, 1.3 million. But hey, the rich have their tax cuts, so obviously they're all going to give us jobs. And the Pentagon has their money for war. I tell you these things not to depress you, but to point out that these things need to change. And one of the first things that's going to lead to these things changing is us changing the way we think about these things. For us to have debates between one another. in public about the Keystone XL pipeline, well, although debate is good, we're not going to benefit from that pipeline. So why are we debating it? The answer is no. For us to debate tax cuts, which really only go to the wealthy, when you and I don't benefit from those tax cuts, we shouldn't be. We don't benefit. We are only adversely affected. The answer is no. We're debating the wrong things. We're not talking about the real issues. We try to do that here on the fire you can't put out. But there's only so much we can do, you know. I say these things, and I hope that to my listeners in America, you'll go out and you'll take action for whatever your cause is, even if your cause isn't my cause. Whatever your cause is, whatever you're passionate about, go make it happen. I know I do. Liberal media, right? That's what we're told. Liberal media. Well, okay. I get why they say it. I get why conservatives say it. It's an old phrase called working the refs. You know, they accuse them of being liberal, and then they're very careful about what they report, and they stop reporting so many bad things about conservatives, and then on all the Sunday shows, they're loaded up with conservatives. Fine. I get it. But it's not true. A true liberal media would have reported on the massive protest that happened in North Carolina this past weekend, about a week ago. Oh, we're taping today on the 15th. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. Hope yours was. Boom. Okay? Somewhere between 80 to 100,000 people from 32 states turned out to protest 4 years of drastic state Republican initiatives in Raleigh, North Carolina on Sunday, February 8th. Let me pause briefly. If this were a teabagger rally with a couple of hundred people carrying racist signs, it would have been everywhere. But it wasn't. Just 80 to 100,000 people marching in the streets of Raleigh, North Carolina from 32 states. No big deal. The Moral March on Raleigh, organized by historic thousands on Jones Street, and the North Carolina NAACP marched from Shaw University to the state capitol to push back against the immoral and unconstitutional policies of Republican Governor Pat McCrory during the 2013 North Carolina General Assembly session. This comes to us from Esther Huhishley. I'm probably butchering her name, my apologies, over at Think Progress. Since North Carolina Republicans took over both legislative chambers in 2010, legislators have eliminated a host of programs, raised taxes on the bottom 80%, repealed a tax credit for 900,000 working families, enforced voter suppression efforts, blocked Medicaid coverage, cut pre-kindergarten funding, cut unemployment benefits, and gave itself the authority to intervene in abortion lawsuits. Yep, small government. Activists have gathered at weekly protests called Moral Mondays. These have been going on for a while now in North Carolina since 2013 as a way to give voice to individuals whose rights were under attack by the Republican-controlled legislature. While there are no reported arrests in Saturday's protest, hundreds of nonviolent protesters were arrested last year during the Moral Monday events. So this happened, and it wasn't covered by anybody, just an absolute blackout. Of course, there were stories all over the internet about it, but that's not major media. And this is a lot of people. Had something absolutely atrocious happen, a lot of people got arrested, somebody got killed, fine. This might have actually made the news. But it's just 100,000 people marching for the rights of their fellow citizens. Nothing, not a big deal. No, it is. And there's no liberal media. I can't even believe that anyone even says that crap anymore. But good on them for getting out in the streets and marching. Most certainly wish I could have been there. I do live on the opposite coast, so although you certainly have my support. And we're going to see more and more marches like that because that's what we should be doing. We should all be passionate about our cause, whatever our cause is. Real quick, this comes to us from Bloomberg News. Margaret Newkirk writing over there. In East Baton Rouge Parish, Louisiana, middle-class and wealthy neighborhoods want an educational divorce from a neighboring community where 4 out of 10 families live in poverty, saying they want local control and they're trying to leave the 42,000 pupil public education system because they envision their own district funded by property taxes from their higher value homes, which would take money away from schools in poorer parts of the state, of the capital, Baton Rouge, home of Louisiana State University. The result may be a concentration of poverty and low achievement. So they're saying this. They're saying the wealthy in Baton Rouge are saying we don't want our tax dollars, the money that we pay on our property tax, usually property taxes that go to education. We don't want our property taxes going to the poor children anymore. Let their poor parents pay for the poor children, and then we will have our own really rich kids go to really rich schools. It's segregation. They're honestly fighting for segregation. And they're saying to hell with the poor. Baton Rouge is among several metropolitan areas where affluent enclaves are threatening to secede. And in Dallas, a move to create a district emerged last year, because Baton Rouge isn't the only place. Parents are proposing a system called White Rock in an affluent area of the city. Oh, yeah. You know what? We're done with you poor people. We're going to take our money and our kids and deal with you. Eventually they'll learn, but probably not soon. Walmart has, for some time, been fighting their workers. They've been fighting their workers who want a union. They've been fighting their workers who want the minimum wage raised. They've been fighting giving them vacations. So, Wolf Research, this comes to us from Think Progress, an equities firm, has now downgraded Walmart in a new research report citing understaffing, among other problems. The firm lowered Walmart from a, quote, market perform rating to a, quote, underperform rating, pointing to 3 main causes: understaffing, an erosion of its price advantage against competitors, and costs associated with intensifying pressure from worker organizing. Quote, Walmart U.S. Relentless focus on cost does seem to have taken some toll on in-store conditions and stock levels. The note says, in regards to understaffing, our store visits over the last 6 months show a repeating pattern of stocking issues in many departments of the store. When products aren't on the shelves, that means Walmart can't sell them, depressing overall sales. And if the shelves are empty and the lines are long, there may not be a reason for consumers to frequent the stores. The company is expected to spend around $300 million this year on regulatory and compliance enhancements, including dealing with the complaint against the company from the NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, that it illegally retaliated against its striking employees. Workers have staged repeated walkouts and protests hitting 9 different cities in November. Well, so what should Walmart do? They're finally experiencing some backlash from the way that they run their company. Well, they could pay their workers more. They could give them benefits and all the rest, and vacation and this and that and la-di-da-di-da, and they would be fine. But instead, they're using that money that they could be paying to their employees to fight against giving their employees those things, and now the company is starting to suffer from it. They say, well, Melvin, they'd be out of business if they started paying. They'd have to raise their price. The 5 Walmart heirs are, I forget what the number is. It's some unbelievable number. They're worth something like what half of America is, or worth what 25. I mean, it's some huge number. These 5 people, Walmart heirs. Workers have demanded something that could actually be a solution to sluggish sales for the company. More full-time positions, and they did hire some more people last year. They also demanded the workers be paid at least $25,000 a year, something the company could pretty easily afford without raising prices, and they want the ability to form unions. The research note also pointed out some competitors can offer similarly low prices while giving worker better pay and benefits. Walmart says full-time workers make $12.78 an hour at their company, bullpucky, But other reports put that average at just over $8 an hour. Costco, on the other hand, pays their workers nearly $22 an hour on average, and its sales are up 6% over the last year. A small grocery chain in Idaho is even able to beat Walmart's prices while paying workers more than $11 an hour and providing them with generous benefits. So they could pay their workers more, and they could pay the board of directors, the CEOs, the people at the top. They could pay them, a couple $1 million a year rather than a couple $1 billion a year, pay their workers, and then they wouldn't be this gigantic, anchor around the neck of Americans. No one likes them. And no one likes them because of the way that they treat their employees. And they're working very, very hard to make sure that their employees don't get that raise in benefits. So what? So the 5 Walmart heirs at the top can have even more money. And it's just going to keep backfiring on you. So Michael Sam came out this week, and that is a pretty big deal. Former Missouri defensive lineman, named first team All-American after the 2013 season, has publicly come out as gay. He revealed to news outlets that he had already come out to his teammates during a preseason football practice before the Tigers' 2013 campaign. Quote, "I understand how big this is," Sam told ESPN. "It's a big deal. No one's done this before, and it's kind of a nervous process, but I know what I want to be. I want to be a player in the NFL." 6 foot, 255-pound senior has been voted co-defensive player of the year in the vaunted Southeast Conference of the 2013 season. This is just a couple, actually it's in a week. It's in a week now that the NFL scouting begins on February 22nd. The NFL had something to say about this, which was, "We admire Sam's honesty and courage," the NFL said in a statement released on Sunday via Ian Rappaport on NFL.com. "Michael is a football player. Any player with the ability and determination can succeed in the NFL." Sam starred on the field as the Missouri rolled into a 12-2 record and a 41-31 win at the Cotton Bowl. Given the type of year that Sam had, he was rated as the 12th best outside pass rusher available in the upcoming NFL draft by ESPN scouts. So it's real likely he's going to be drafted, and he will be the first gay player in the NFL. Now, there have been, the first out gay player, okay, out, proud, all the rest. There have been men who played in the NFL who came out after leaving the league, but not while in the league or just before going into the league. So there's a couple of schools of thought on this that say, well, perhaps he should have waited because now it's, maybe no one's going to want to touch him because they know that he's gay. It's a hot issue. There's a lot of homophobia in the NFL, and there's a lot of other folks who are praising him and saying this is great because it's almost a guarantee that you're going to get drafted by some team somewhere. And good on you for coming out beforehand and not, doing this afterward. And if they don't pick you now, well, it kind of looks like they don't like you because you're gay. And there is a lot of homophobia in the NFL. We've heard a whole lot about it, especially as of late with Richie Incognito and some of the rest. And then there's Jonathan Vilma. New Orleans Saints linebacker Jonathan Vilma sat down with Andrea Kremer, the NFL's chief correspondent for player health and safety. Quote, "I think that he would not be accepted as much as we think he would be accepted," Vilma added. "I don't want people to just naturally assume we're all homophobic." Emphasis put on by me. "That's really not the case. Imagine if he's the guy next to me and, I get dressed, I'm naked, I'm taking a shower, the whole nine, and he just happened to look at me, and how am I supposed to respond?" "Well, how would you respond if a straight guy looked at you?" "You do the same thing." We're having some friends over, and some of those friends are going to be girls because they're my wife's friends, and I better watch out because since they're women and they're straight, they're automatically going to like me, and they're automatically going to hit on me, and it's a stupid way to think. First of all, what makes you think that you're Michael Sam's type? But this is what I've never cared for when it comes to homophobia. "Oh, he's gay, he better not hit on me." Trust me. Gay men generally have standards. They're not going to hit on you. But it also perpetuates this whole predatory aspect. Like, gays are just sex-starved and they're just out there, they just want the straights and they just want to turn you gay and God dang it, that's their agenda. And it's really old thinking and it's really unnecessary. So, in another test of his pen and phone strategy, Obama, working with Attorney General Eric Holder on Saturday, said that the Justice Department will grant lawful same-sex marriages full and equal recognition to the greatest extent possible under the law. This statement was from a speech at a gala held by the Human Rights Campaign. The DOJ will grant same-sex couples in all 50 states the same benefits currently enjoyed by those in traditional marriages in the criminal justice system and other programs administered by Attorney General. This means, for example, that one same-sex spouse cannot be compelled to testify against another. Prisoners in federal prison and with the same-sex spouse will have spousal visitation privileges and treat same-sex marriages like heterosexual ones in federal bankruptcy proceedings, as well as grant federal death benefits to same-sex couples where one member is a public safety officer killed or badly wounded in the line of duty. So, the White House has said, we're going to treat your marriages federally like straight marriages. Exactly the same. No different. Equal protection under the law. Holder's announcement marks the first major use of executive power by the administration in the immediate aftermath of January's State of the Union, the pen and phone strategy. The policies announced by Holder only applies to the DOJ and does not expand to include the cherished goals of the LGBT community, like an executive order prohibiting discrimination based on sexual orientation by all federal contractors. Good on the DOJ, good on the White House. This is fabulous, and this is one of the things that I do like about the president. But not everybody is on board. Mary Helen Sears of Houghton County, Michigan, in the state's Upper Peninsula, elected vice chair of the Michigan Republican Party's 1st District last year and posted a rant on the Schoolcraft County GOP website. In the post, she claimed that homosexuals prey on children, argued that Satan uses homosexuality to attack the living space of the Holy Spirit, and advocated that Republicans as a party should be purging this perversion and send them to a party with a much bigger tent. Yeah, she actually said that. Send the gays, get them out of our party, send them to the party with the bigger tent. That's okay, we'll take them. Sears, in her post on the Schoolcraft County GOP website, wrote that communist college professors were indoctrinating young people and claimed that Charles Darwin's evolutionary theory gave rise to Hitler's Third Reich and Mussolini's Italy, Stalin's Russia. Da, 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 da. So she obviously doesn't know her history, and that's to be expected from a teabagger. Real quick, Obama is going to be meeting with the Pope on March 27th in Vatican City as part of a 4-day trip to Europe. So when that happens, we will most certainly report on that. So in 2014 politics, For America announced Tuesday that it's pouring 6 figures into its Dump the Leadership campaign, and I am on board with this. Follow me, ladies and gentlemen. Brent Bozell, the right-wing flamethrower, this comes to us from Talking Points Memo, who's proven himself plenty willing to take on the GOP establishment, announced this, okay? After Paul Ryan hashed out a bipartisan budget deal last year, Bozell predicted that the conservative base would stampede away from a party that lost its principles and bearings. Quote, time and time again, year after year, the Republican leadership in the House and Senate has come to grassroots conservative and Tea Party supporters pleading for our money, our volunteers, our time, our energy, and our votes, he told CNN in a statement. Bozell said the group will use digital ads between now and November to target House Speaker John Boehner, House Minority Leader Eric Cantor, House Majority Whip Kevin McCarthy, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, and Senate Minority Whip John Cornyn, Republican from Texas. These are all heavy, the leadership, the heavy hitters, the absolute outright teabaggiest of the teabaggers, right? And Bozell said, no, you're not to the right enough for me. So we're going to get you out of there. And you know, Mr. Bozell, even though I'm not going to give you money, I absolutely believe that you have the right to out that leadership. You go, boy. Ladies and gentlemen, final thought time. We still have the same problems. When they decided to rule against the Voting Rights Act, the Supreme Court said we just don't have racial issues anymore in America, so there's absolutely no need for it. And of course, about a month ago, we had Martin Luther King Day. A lot of conservatives don't believe that we need that day, and right now we are in the month of February, which is Black History Month. But I want to bring you these stories to highlight something after MLK Day. An MLK-themed party held by ASU this was Arizona State University, has civil rights leaders speaking out against Tau Kappa Epsilon, the Tau Kappa Epsilon fraternity, and wants them expelled from the university. Now, the latest, this involves images on social media of partygoers wearing stereotypical hip-hop clothes. They appear to flash gang signs and use hashtags such as Blackout for MLK and I Have a Dream. They're wearing the baggy clothes, and the photos show people wearing saggy pants and posing with hollowed-out watermelon cups. Yeah, it's really racist, and it's all for MLK Day, they said. The fraternity was already on university probation for a fight in November 2012 where police reports say fraternity members confronted a rival fraternity member who was African American and beat him up. He suffered a broken jaw, concussion, and cuts. After the latest incident at an off-campus party during the holiday weekend, local civil rights leaders demanded that the university bar the fraternity. That's one. Here's two. This rich lady decided to celebrate MLK by sitting on a black woman. Follow me. There's a photo of Dasha Zakuva over at Gawker.com. She is the 32-year-old wife of a Russian oil billionaire and friend to Rupert Murdoch's ex-wife, Wendy Dang. And she's lounging on what she calls a fetish chair, featuring a contorted dummy to look like a half-naked black woman. She calls it art. A Russian fashion magazine posted the photo on Martin Luther King Day, but quickly deleted it from its website and Instagram. You can still see it over at Gawker.com, though. Just punch in Rich Lady Celebrates MLK Day by J.K. Trotter. And in participation of her daughter's birth in 2013, Zakova's husband, Roman Abramovich, set her up in the largest yacht in the entire world, costing $250 million, which Abramovich docked on Manhattan's west side. Her net worth is upward of $14 billion. She has said that the chair was simply taken out of context and was a commentary on racial and gender politics. You know what? You're kind of right about that. Kind of. And then a Republican lawmaker in Pennsylvania is trying to bring back discrimination. This is from Raw Story by David Ferguson. He's seeking to invalidate the state's non-discrimination law by adding a faith-based amendment that would allow discrimination for religious reasons. According to RH Reality Check, State Representative Gordon Denlinger proposed the amendment on Monday, MLK Day. This is, of course, last month. Philly.com wrote that under Denlinger's proposed Freedom of Conscience Amendment, employers, store owners, realtors, hotel managers, etc. could deny jobs, groceries, homes, or rooms to anyone tall, short, pregnant, Catholic, gay, Jewish, goth, Democratic, newspaper columnist, threw that in for himself, obviously, who offends their beliefs, just as long as those beliefs are, quote, sincerely held. In a memo circulated, Denlinger wrote, specifically, I plan to propose a new section in Article 1. The Pennsylvania Bill of Rights that I will prohibit government from punishing an individual or entity if the individual or entity makes hiring or other employment decisions or provides services, accommodations, including housing accommodations, advantages, facilities, goods, or privileges based on sincerely held beliefs. He, of course, is fighting for somebody in particular. He is close friends with a Mennonite family that owns Conestoga Wood Supplies, and they don't want to provide birth control coverage to women under Obamacare. Why do we still need the Voting Rights Act? Why do we still need laws preventing discrimination, ladies and gentlemen? It's right here. On Martin Luther King Day, people are celebrating by being racist, celebrating by trying to take away people's rights, celebrating by sitting in a chair that looks very lifelike, like a black woman folded in half. And then, of course, right now, a disproportionate amount of the African American community is locked up in our jails and prisons right now, and that's, I believe, by design. In a lot of states around the country, Republicans, and it's only Republicans, I'm going to be partisan here, are working very, very hard to see to it that African Americans lose their right to vote. We'll bring you more on that next week. I've been doing quite a bit of research on that ahead of this year's elections, the 2014 elections, which, by the way, the media is not talking about at all. I'm fairly certain that they just would rather you didn't turn out. They don't want to seem too liberal by telling you that it's an election year. But these problems still exist. Did Martin Luther King make a difference? He absolutely did. And his work isn't done, though. And so we need to keep doing it. We need to keep pointing these things out when they happen. We need to continue fighting against discrimination, equality. We shouldn't all get the exact same thing. Of course, you should be rewarded based on the work that you're able to do. But if you are, of course, poor, disabled, or any of the rest, it doesn't mean that you should just fall through the cracks. And to hell with you. You starve. You don't get housing. You don't get healthcare. You don't get anything. We're all in this together, and we all need to take care of each other. And why do we still need MLK Day? Why do we still need the Voting Rights Act? Why do we still need to protect people's right to vote? Well, because those things, even after all these years, are still viciously under attack. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm eternally hopeful, and I think that we can do it. I want to thank you for joining me again. This is The Fire You Can't Put Out. You can download or stream the shows over at OpenSkyArchive.com. Our official home is, of course, KiwiStation.com. You can also stream our show on our YouTube channel over at YouTube.com. Just search for Kiwi Station, all one word. There you can subscribe. Like us on Facebook at Facebook.com/TFYCPO. You can listen on the go. Just download the Kiwi Station app at the iTunes Store or at the Google Play Store for Android users. Open Sky Archive app is also still available at both app stores. Individual episodes are available for download at the iTunes Store. Just search for the title, The Fire You Can't Put Out. You can also subscribe so that you never miss an episode. Questions, comments, hate mail, or just a general statement or inquiry, you can email us at tfycpo@gmail.com, and we do read your email. We work very hard on this show to not only inform, but entertain, and to keep an open dialogue with our growing listener base. So feel free to reach out to us, and as always, thanks for listening. Rejecting austerity in favor of prosperity, we are the fire you can't put out, and we will prevail. Special thanks to Kevin for producing, and a big thanks to Kiwi Station for putting us on and making us available 24/7, 365 around the world. Until next week, this is Melvin, signing off. Good day.